Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Copilot summarizes who said what and what question
Welcome to our
capturing the
webinar,
spirit of the discussion.
and thank you for
And as the meeting
joining.
progresses, you can check in on where people stand.
All right. Are we ready, Ben? So good afternoon. Thanks again, everybody, for joining. Welcome to our webinar. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everybody has been muted upon entry, as we've done in the past couple of weeks here on our webinars. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, please add them to the Q&A section in this Teams webinar. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll be addressing any additional questions that you may have. Again, welcome and thanks for joining us today. I'm Colleen Schills, the Director of Customer Success. And joining me today is Ben Borger, our Director of Cloud Services. So for today's agenda, last week in our webinar, we reviewed Copilot and presented ways that clients have deployed Copilot in their organizations and how it has impacted them. We also had a guest speaker join to share his experience with Copilot. For those of you who were not able to attend, we will provide a link to the recording in the chat, so that way you can access it and review. But today's agenda, we're going to look at how to master Copilot by providing use cases and tips. And we're also going to be demoing Copilot in action. So make sure that you stay to the very end to see the wonderful works of Copilot. Before I turn it over to Ben, though, let's take a quick poll. Let us know which of the following you're most interested in learning about today. Is it advanced productivity tips, or maybe task automation techniques, collaboration features, or practical demonstrations? So if you wouldn't mind taking a couple of seconds to select which one of the following you're most interested in. And if it's all of them, you know what, we should probably add that as an option for the future, just so that way you can say all of the above, because I think we have a lot of great content that we're going to be sharing. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ben and talk about Copilot.
Great, thanks, Colleen. So yeah, today we're going to talk about Microsoft Copilot, look at some real-world practical examples for how we can use it to help increase productivity and reduce administrative effort across the organization. So first, let's take a look at some of the things that Copilot's capable of to get your imagination going before we dive in. So based on recent Work Trend Index report, 64% of employees don't have enough time or energy to do their job. And over the past few years, the pace and volume of work has only increased. And on a given workday, our heaviest users search for what they need over 18 times, receive over 250 Outlook emails, and send or read nearly 150 Teams chats. And if you're on this webinar, you're probably among that user group. So Teams users globally are in 3 times as many more meetings each week than they were in 2020. Now, Windows 11, people are using up to 11 apps in a single day in that same user group to get their work done. The primary cause of this time and energy drain are things like searching for information, navigating inefficient meetings. Employees reported spending nearly 60% of their time on communicating and coordinating, leaving just 40% for creation, deep thinking, and collaboration. The volume of data, emails, and chats has outpaced our ability to process it all. And we call that digital debt. Every minute we spend managing this digital debt is a minute that we're not spending on creative work. So that's more than an inconvenience, it's impacting business. Today, we're going to look at use cases and practical examples for Copilot for Microsoft 365 across the organization, from executive, HR and operations, to sales and marketing, finance and technology roles. Let's start by looking at how Copilot can help leadership within your organization be more efficient and surface the data that they need to be effective. Another interesting stat first from the Work Trend Index is that over 2/3 of staff indicate they don't have enough focus time for strategic work during the day. And we can imagine that many leadership roles fall into this category. So let's look at an example scenario where an executive is preparing for a company-wide address. With Copilot for Microsoft 365, they can summarize email threads and chat conversations across teams in Outlook quickly, getting up to speed on recent discussions related to the announcement. They can use Copilot in Word to draft or revise copy, using Copilot's prompting capability to fine-tune the tone of the message. In PowerPoint, Copilot can generate slides based on other documents within your organization or revise existing presentations with some creative prompting. Back to Teams and Outlook, Copilot provides meeting recaps by scanning transcriptions and can draft a thank you email that can be personalized before sending to support that announcement. Now let's look more specifically at some of the Copilot prompts that we would use to accomplish these tasks. We can ask Copilot to summarize our emails, and notice how we can also include a time range to help Copilot understand the source data that we're interested in. We'll be actually looking at the structure and components of a prompt a little bit later on to give you more depth on how to actually control the data you're getting back from Copilot. In Teams, we have Copilot generate a list of salient points for meetings and Teams channels. In Word, we can rewrite sections using Copilot and add structure and detail using data in your Microsoft 365 tenant you have access to, including other documents, emails, and chats. In PowerPoint, we can add an image to a slide, animate, change the design with just a prompt. So let's take a look at a typical day or maybe a busy day in the life of an executive managing an issue at product delivery. Starting early, Tanya asked Copilot for some good follow-up questions to make sure she understands a customer issue that came in that morning. Then she drafts an email using a professional tone, apologizing for the issue, and committing to a more detailed response later that day. She uses Copilot to summarize the issue reported by the customer and the team's proposed solution and timing. After some customer meetings, Tanya uses Copilot to draft a new paragraph referencing information in the Contoso business plan document. Meanwhile, critical production issue comes up, so Tanya uses Copilot to summarize all chats and emails that mention the melt shop customer for the past 2 hours and direct the team. Once that issue is resolved, back to her speech, she uses Copilot to generate a few relevant but funny icebreakers to open the speech. Now let's take a look at how Copilot can help HR within your organization get more accomplished in less time so they can focus on people instead of emails. But first, another interesting stat from the Work Trend Index: 3 out of 4 people are comfortable using AI for administrative tasks like summarizing and drafting emails. Let's take a look at how Copilot can streamline candidate hiring workflow. Using just a job title, we could ask Copilot to draft a job description suggesting skills, qualifications, and responsibilities for the position. We could also reference a document to make that more detailed and provide some specific salient points to include. We can ask Copilot to scan through PDF and Word document resumes and look for specific skills. In Loop, we can create and share interview questions across the organization so interviews will be able to collaborate with real time on candidates. Copilot and Teams can summarize the interview and the candidate's responses in background, provide that through an AI notes recap. And finally, Copilot can draft an offer letter and customize that based on your inputs and the data in the Teams meeting. Let's look at some of the prompts that can help make that happen. In Word, we can ask Copilot to create a job description and reference a document with those core responsibilities. We can then ask Copilot to search a candidate's resume and compare it to the job description. We can ask for a series of interview questions for that position and include some specific questions that we want to ask. We can ask Teams for some follow-up questions based on previous discussions, and then can draft an offer letter in Copilot for Word, including the start date and referencing some details from the benefits handbook. So let's look at a typical day and how Copilot can help an HR manager be more efficient. Omar leads HR for a regional bank. He starts his day with an interview for a new candidate. After the interview, he asks Copilot to draft some good follow-up questions. Meanwhile, a dust-up occurred at one of the branches, and Omar uses Copilot to quickly summarize and ask the right questions and offer guidance. Reviewing a spreadsheet on employee attrition, he asks Copilot to add a column that averages attrition numbers for each month. We're going to look at that later on the live demo. He switches over to Copilot for PowerPoint and generates several slides to explain the team's new HR initiatives. Finally, he flips back to Outlook and uses Copilot to summarize email threads and draft responses. Now let's take a look at how operations and information workers can leverage Copilot from Microsoft 365 to work more efficiently. Another interesting stat, a large majority of people are comfortable using AI to summarize meetings and action items. When recording a Teams call, this information is generated automatically and provided in an AI recap, including points of the meeting and suggested follow-up tasks, which are assigned to individual meeting participants. So let's look at how we can solve a production issue more efficiently using Copilot. In Excel, we can use Copilot to quickly suggest new calculations, formulas, and data insights to visualize data and spot anomalies and correlations without having to code those manually. We can also search internal files and chats in Copilot to look for previous incidences of the same issue. With Whiteboard, we can organize and suggest follow-up items based on the ideas presented. Using Copilot in Teams and Outlook, we can keep track of our progress by summarizing a weekly status meeting and share with others that weren't on the meeting to get their feedback. So let's look at some of the prompts we can use to accomplish these goals. In Excel, we can use the Show Data Insights prompt to automatically visualize our data. In Copilot from the web or on a Windows desktop, we can search for related troubleshooting documents across the organization's SharePoint, Teams, and personal OneDrive. We can use the Organize command within Whiteboard to clean up the data and prepare a concise list of action items. Megan leads a product development team. So let's look at how Copilot could streamline her day. After meeting with the production team to discuss product challenges, she uses Copilot to draft follow-up questions to make sure that she understands the impact on the manufacturing process. Using Copilot in Excel, she adds a column totaling cost by a project number. She uses Copilot to create a presentation in PowerPoint based on the information that's in the Contoso project plan design guidelines Word document. The organization is planning to launch a vacation calendar in Teams, but the Power Automate tool that they have isn't launched yet, so she's still getting emails for time off requests. She uses Copilot to find any emails requesting time off for the last month, and then she uses Copilot in Teams to summarize a meeting that she missed and find out if there are any action items for her. Finally, she used Copilot to draft a Word document sharing the main points of a new project proposal with leadership. Now let's take a look at how Copilot can empower sales within an organization. Another interesting statistic from the Work Trend Index. Almost 9 out of 10 people are looking for AI to assist with finding information within their organization. And this is a really great application for generative AI in its current state. Let's consider how we can improve sales presentations with an AI assistant. Using the Microsoft Loop, we can collaborate with the team and use Copilot to summarize and create session goals. We can send Bing Chat Enterprise out to the internet and report on the organization and summarize its annual report for goals, risks, and financial data. Then we can use Copilot for Microsoft 365 to create a bulleted list of notes from recent emails so we're up to speed when we meet with the customer. Copilot for PowerPoint can get us started with a sales presentation summary using that data. And in the meeting, we can give the customer our undivided attention and rely on Copilot to take detailed notes and draft action items rather than being distracted. So, what kind of prompts would we use in this case? For Loop, we'd ask it to create a set of questions for a customer discovery session. For Bing Chat Enterprise, we'd open up the customer's annual report in Edge, just on the web, and then pull out the Copilot sidebar and prompt it to summarize that document, including goals, risks, and metrics. Back in Copilot on the desktop, we'd ask for a bulleted list of notes mentioning Fabricam in the last 2 weeks. And then we'd ask Copilot to add a slide with summarized information and include appropriate image for the medical industry. In Teams, we'd ask Copilot to summarize the meeting or use the AI notes pane of the automated recap, which is present for every recorded meeting if you have a Copilot license enabled. And finally, use Copilot to draft a proposal based on the meeting notes. Cassandra is a sales lead at Contoso. She needs to prepare a pitch, so she uses Copilot to summarize all emails and Teams chats in the past month, highlighting the asks and open items. She tells Copilot to draft a concise email confirming the meeting and expressing excitement to share the product updates and pricing using a formal tone. Back in Excel, she uses data insights to quickly visualize pricing data and check for any unusual rows or anomalies. Cassandra starts her pitch and then uses Copilot to take notes so that she can ensure she follows up on any questions that the prospect has. And then she uses Copilot in Teams to catch up on events that occurred while she was focused, summarizing those chats and emails. Another group of data-heavy information workers is finance. So let's take a look at how Copilot can benefit them. First, consistent with some of our earlier figures, we find that about 8 out of 10 people are comfortable using AI for analytical work. Finance can leverage Copilot in Excel to quickly get insights into financial data and revenue projections exported from their ERP system without having to hand code formulas and charts. We're going to look at that firsthand a little later. They can use Teams to summarize and track action items from internal and cross-department meetings. They can summarize, revise, rewrite, or add content to contract documents in Microsoft Word. They can leverage that data then in a presentation created by Copilot and summarized for the leadership team. We're seeing consistency here in the types of prompting that we use. In Copilot, we can ask for a document summary. We can use the slash command, the forward slash, to pull up a search of documents. That's how we do that document link. That allows you to then just start typing for any document that's in your OneDrive, in Teams, and allow Copilot to work with that data as part of your prompt. In Excel, we'd use the Show Data Insights built-in prompt to quickly graph and visualize that data. In Teams, we'd ask for a list of that's for any legal notification that's required for the offer in the meeting recap tab. In PowerPoint, we create a new presentation looking for a link to deal summary and requesting some specifics in terms of what slides to include. And in Excel, we can add a column with revenue projection adjustment. So Hillary's a financial analyst at Contoso. She'll start her day by looking at the cost of goods sold estimate for a new product. She'll save a minute or two asking Copilot to sort the data by project feature and then filter out the priority 2 features versus doing that manually. After a meeting with her manager and meeting to discuss the reporting requirements, Copilot will summarize that meeting and generate action items. Later, Hillary gets to focus on her main project and reviews the due diligence information on an acquisition. She asked Copilot to summarize 3 documents and raise the salient points in each. She creates an overview of the acquisition in Word and asks Copilot to turn the document into a slide deck for the business development team. After summarizing chats where she was mentioned, back in Excel, Hillary updates the acquisition numbers with what-if scenarios and uses data insights to visualize it. So now let's look at Copilot for information technology pros and how they could benefit. We're definitely seeing a consistent trend in terms of the comfort level using AI in the workplace, with 3/4 of respondents to this survey saying they're comfortable using AI for administrative tasks. Like other areas of the business, IT professionals are often managing multiple projects and responsibilities. Copilot can help by adding structure to tasks such as creating a new project plan based on a previous version and product documentation. Copilot in Teams can help summarize project status, open items, and feed into an issues log based on a meeting transcript. Copilot in Word can be used to draft documentation and procedures based on emails and documents within the organization. And in Outlook, Copilot can draft emails to share updates and summarize details from attached documentation so the support team can get up to speed quickly. There's also some links at the bottom here. We're going to share those as well on the recap page of our meeting for general Copilot documentation, Copilot site adoption guide, and also kind of some tips and tricks on how to use Copilot. Those are those links at the bottom, as well as the Copilot lab we're going to take a look at too. So here's some of the prompts that we would use in order to realize some of that Copilot functionality. In Copilot, we can ask for a summary of the Fabricam product documentation. In Teams, summarize ongoing meeting to make sure that we circle back to any important topics. And after doing SWOT analysis in Whiteboard, we can summarize that to bring that data into a bulleted list. We can ask Copilot to draft a detailed email from the support procedures document with a friendly tone. And then we can create an executive update from the project plan and put that in PowerPoint. Will's an IT administrator at Contoso. He's on site today and uses Copilot to surface any urgent issues from Teams or Outlook. He uses Copilot in Teams during the morning meeting to keep track of any unanswered questions during the daily stand-up. He uses Copilot in Word to draft some details on system setting changes to include an IT project plan and using a source document in Teams. He uses Copilot in PowerPoint to add slides to a presentation for HR, detailing his recommendations for a new employee experience solution. And Will uses Copilot in Teams to catch up on a meeting he missed and reviews the AI notes and recap for key points and action items. Later in the day, he'll use his Copilot to draft some PowerShell commands to ensure their servers are compliant with a new IT policy and has a Copilot to report on best laptops for business users. Okay, and here we have our live poll. So what do you believe is the biggest barrier to improving your workflow efficiency with Copilot? Lack of familiarity with advanced features, difficulty in automating tasks, collaboration challenges, or uncertainty about best practices? Looks like most folks are just looking for more guidance on advanced features. So that's great. You're in the right place. All right, excellent. Thanks for providing that feedback. So we've gone through a lot of practical examples to this point, but more general. So let's take a closer look at the specifics and understand the prompt that we're sending to Copilot and its structure. There are 4 components: the goal, the context, the source, and our expectations. So if you think about the prompts that you're sending to Copilot in this 4-part structure, you're going to get the best results. So try to take advantage of the default prompts also, as they're going to generally provide good results. And you'll see that those exist in most of the areas of the application. Each application in Copilot has its own built-in prompts. So we'll take a look at those as well. But you want to be sure to use clear and specific language and provide as much context as possible. It's really hard to overdo it. And don't forget to review, like I said, those prompt guidances to give you some tips on how you can use Copilot more efficiently. So let's take a quick look at Copilot in PowerPoint. Ready presentation without having to start from scratch. Now you can. Using just your own words, Copilot can translate Word into PowerPoint. You can also translate PowerPoint into Word. Now you have a professional looking presentation that you can hone and polish. Let's say you want to add a slide. Give Copilot some quick instructions. There it goes, ready for you to review. So this slide is too wordy. Let's ask Copilot to make it more visual. Give it a few seconds. There we go. So as we saw in the video, we can turn a couple sentences into a full-blown presentation pretty easily. And if we have a source document or two, it can include a lot of good detail as well. So to access Copilot inside of PowerPoint, you want to click the Copilot button on the ribbon and that callout window will appear. And from there, you can either select a predefined prompt or use the prompt guide to guide you some of those requests to Copilot or type in a custom one. There's the prompt guide right there. We'll be sharing a link to Copilot Lab after this presentation as well. There's a ton of resources there available to teach you how to work more efficiently with Copilot, including ideas and training guides. In Word, you can simply highlight your text, which will cause that Copilot icon to appear on the left-hand side. And from there, you can draft, summarize, revise, or even visualize text-based data as a table. So clicking right there to reference a file if you'd like. You've got these are the detailed prompts that are available. So you've got the ability to just use one of those default prompts, or you can pull data together from either an image or anywhere inside your Microsoft 365 tenant by just using that / to bring up the search. You can also click on the Copilot ribbon up top to get a full callout menu to appear as well. So just like with PowerPoint, there's a large library of prompts available in the Copilot Lab for Word. Check out the link provided or just search for Copilot Lab and you'll find it. So now we have another live poll. What type of questions would you like to prioritize in the live Q&A? Got a deep dive into specific features, clarifications on automation tips, help with troubleshooting, or general advice on just maximizing productivity? Great. Looks like it's a deep dive, general advice, and clarifications on automation tips. Great. So we'll take a look at those. So now let's take a look at Copilot in Teams. There's two different ways of interacting. And the first that we'll look at is Copilot during a live meeting. Copilot in Teams makes every meeting productive one. Great stuff. This is a really neat feature and we use it a lot. It's helpful to really not just get a list of summary items and discussions that have taken place so far, but you can ask Copilot for some pretty detailed things in terms of, where were their disagreements, which questions are unresolved. So there's a lot of insight that it can get by analyzing the discussion that's taken place through the meeting transcript so far. Now let's take a look at business chat in Teams. This is the ability you can interact with Copilot outside of a meeting right through business chat in your Teams chat pane. Let's take a look. Business chat works across all your data apps to help. Yep. So inside Copilot Teams chat, you've got the Copilot icon there available, and you can either do a built-in prompt or you can type in your own custom prompt right there. And the prompt suggestions here are available. And you can, just as you can see there, get highlights from the last few days, what decisions were made, what open items exist related to a certain Teams chat or a certain meeting or any kind of project specifics that you have. And there's the more prompts button available right there. There's the guide. So after a meeting, you can open up that meeting in Teams and you can actually view the AI generated meeting notes right there in the AI notes pane. You can use that prompt guide there to get some ideas to get started. But notice that under AI notes, you'll have a full list of the summary and those action items that's generated by Copilot for Teams anytime you have recorded the meeting and enabled transcription. So again, be sure to check out the Copilot Lab for lots of creative prompts you can use to get beyond just the basics of summarizing and generating action items. You can get pretty detailed with your prompts and have Copilot suggest to compare ideas and options across different iterations of a project or different meetings, generate responses in table format, do quite a bit in Teams. In Outlook, you can draft or get coaching from Copilot right from that new email window. You can change the tone, or you can add or remove detail or summarize a very long thread without having to read the entire thing just by clicking that Copilot summary icon up top. Here's Draft and Coach by Copilot. You can just type in a quick description of what you'd like to say, or you can get suggestions from Copilot to improve your email up top. These screenshots are from the new Outlook, but Outlook Classic is very similar. And at the top of every email, you've got that summarized by Copilot option there available to you. All right, so now I'm going to take a look at Excel, and we're going to do a quick demo looking at Copilot for some of those data insights that we talked about, and also column calculations. So I have an Excel spreadsheet up here that we exported from our Acumatica ERP system with client invoices. This is demo data from the sample tenant. And so I've asked Copilot already to show a suggestion formula column for this. So it analyzed the data and suggested like we add a days until due column. It generated the formula automatically for me, gave me a preview, and all I have to do is click insert column in order to see that data. I can also then click show a suggestion for an additional column. So we'll see what it comes up with here in real time. It's going to generate based on the data that's in here. You do have to have a table defined within your spreadsheet. The easiest way to do that is just to highlight a range of the spreadsheet and then click the Copilot and work with that, or you can actually name it, give it a table name if you want. And so it's pulled up that suggestion, or it looks like the days due and came back up again. So, but that's a duplicate. No, it's actually not quite, slightly different because we have a date and a due date. So we can insert that second column there again. And now I'm going to click Show Data Insights. So this is one of those built-in prompts that we talked about. What this is going to do is basically just crunch the data and try to give us some ideas for what's happening in the data. And so first it just generated a report here, days overdue by date. And then we can just keep going with these insights. Sales by post period created for us, sales by type and status. And as you can see, it just really will crunch through this data quickly. It noticed that the status close has a noticeably lower days until due date. So just really helping you spot anomalies in your data. All this is happening in real time now. You notice that there's 4 outliers here in days until due. We could keep going, but I'll click Add All Insights to a Grid. And then it's going to create a new sheet for us here that has all of these insights that it's generated. And I didn't have to do anything to create a single one of these charts other than click Insights 4 times. So this is a really great way to just give a fresh perspective of looking at data in Excel and help you get that information gleaned out quickly without having to hand code formulas, hand code graphs, and things of that nature. All right, so I'm going to go back to our presentation.
Wow, that was great, Ben. That was really cool seeing that live action. I really liked that. I'm sure everyone on this call can relate to the examples you just shared. There's everybody works in Excel, if nothing else, at the very least, right? We're all in our email every day. What doesn't matter what your backend ERP is, Copilot can definitely help support the data, that's for sure. So let's recap today's webinar and the details on this free consultation offer that we've got going on at Crestwood. So before we open up the Q&A, I wanted to touch on a couple of items. So Ben, if you wanted to just jump to the next slide. Our objective today was to provide you with use cases and tips on how to use Copilot. So what's the next step? Let us help you get AI ready. Let's start with a free consultation. To help with this, we're providing you with a Copilot assessment that you can use as a starting point in your organization to help you take a look at your needs. This assessment will be placed in the chat for download, and feel free to download it and take a look and complete it if you want. Once you have that assessment completed, though, we're more than happy to get on a call and bring one of our experts to walk you through the results of the assessment. So you might be asking, well, how do I get to the assessment? Well, you have a couple of choices. You can either email sales@crestwood.com, or feel free to reach out to your customer success manager. In addition, you will receive a follow-up email after today's presentation with a copy of the recording. So you can always feel free to email our marketing department. They know how to get a hold of all of us here. So with that being said, let's open up the Q&A and see what is out there. So let's see, do we have any questions? Kayla, did you happen to see any questions in the chat? I did not see any.
Currently, no.
Okay. That's because Ben did a spectacular job and answered everybody's questions. I really think that once you get a copy of the slides in this recording, you'll see that the links will definitely help. But we're here to support you. We can help you walk through it. We can help you with your licensing. So, you know, we want to be part of your AI deployment. So,
Colleen, it looks like we do have a question in the Q&A.
oh, nice.
It says, if you are analyzing a spreadsheet of customer sales data using Copilot, how do you know that the data is not made available to the public domain?
That's a great question. Yeah. So there are a couple types of Copilot. There's, the public, as we all know, like the Chat GPT, but Microsoft 365 Copilot doesn't train on any of your business data. So nothing that you send to Copilot for analysis ever leaves your tenant. And also, the permissions model that Copilot uses is called Microsoft Graph. That's basically a go-between for all Microsoft 365 services. And so you're only able to see data in Copilot that you have access to. And so that, extends to your OneDrive, extends to Teams and SharePoint sites that you might have access to. And so it never becomes part of the public domain under any circumstances when using Microsoft 365 Copilot. There's also some tools to ensure that, if you watched our first webinar, we've got some details on Microsoft's tools to prevent oversharing, maybe accidentally sharing information, org-wide that shouldn't be. It's possible to basically put a sensitivity label on either an individual document, a whole document library, like a whole team or a whole SharePoint site, that makes it unavailable to Copilot. So that's a very a quick way for you to just, have confidence that there's no way that, maybe data on a sensitive site, could be consumed through Copilot and accidentally, distributed to your organization. But it's important to keep in mind that that would only happen if the user already had access to it. But just like as part of the Copilot AI journey, a lot of organizations have found that they had sort of more permissive sharing than they thought they had, and so we don't want Copilot surfacing anything that that's confidential. So those are some tools to kind of keep that data out of the public domain and keep it scoped properly to the right audience within your organization.
Thanks, Ben. Super helpful. All right. Any other questions out there? All right. If not,
There is one comment. Oh, it was just a thank you for asking the question. Sorry.
You bet. Good question. Thanks, Lynn.
all right. And just added the Copilot assessment to the chat. So if anybody's interested, feel free to download it. But we really appreciate everybody's time today. And thanks to everybody attending our 3 webinar series on Copilot. We hope that you found the information useful, and we look forward to being part of your AI transformation journey. So if there's anything we can do to help with that, please let us know and take advantage of our free consultation. Everybody enjoy the long holiday weekend. Take care.